Artificial intelligence and human intelligence actually work really well together. AI has the ability to know everything, but there's a difference between knowing and understanding, right? And that's where human lived experience comes in.
I don't like that. It's like it exists, but who cares? It's like another tool that is there to support you and support what you're trying to say. If you don't have something to say, okay, so maybe you need to drop all these tools and figure out what you're trying to say first. It is political. We can't run away from it. Even if we are just users and we're consumers, they tell you it's like if the technology is free, that means you're the product.
And I also see AI as a great equalizer. You have access to all that knowledge and you can learn in the same way as anyone else.
What's petrifying is the idea that there's targeted phishing campaigns, right? The AI ones are the ones where you get a FaceTime and the FaceTime is your son speaking to you, like their face.
I remember people were freaking out. They didn't want to do Face IDs. It's like scanning your face with the iPhone. Apple will take all our faces and do stuff with it. Everyone now is using it. And still, it's like we surrendered almost.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Media Majlis podcast. My name is Mikey Mhenna. This is another one of the episodes that is part of the series that's exploring the exhibition AI or Nay. And today on the series, we have Katy Gillett and Hadeer Omar, both of whom were contributors to the exhibition. And the title of today's episode is basically AI ethics, in which we were trying to explore the ethics of these models that we are becoming increasingly dependent on and the way it's influencing our life and our creativity and what we know about the world. So Katy, maybe I'll just start with you. There was a subtext to the exhibition, which is artificial versus intelligent. I'm curious about that dichotomy and why, and maybe do you think that was like a very important distinction and dichotomy that you wanted the audience and sort of exhibition goers to explore?
I think it's really fun wordplay, but I don't know if I actually do think it's a dichotomy. I think that, artificial intelligence and human intelligence actually work really well together. One without the other on their own can be has a lot of room for errors. Whereas if you work together with an AI machine or, vice versa, it can be quite powerful. So I think if we're talking about, it's easy to say it's artificial truth or it's artificial creativity. But when you bring the two together, like I'm saying, you get something different. It's still genuine, it's still meaningful, it's still original. It's just something different than what you would have gotten if you'd have done one or the other on your own. And the same with knowledge. AI has the ability to know everything. Thousands upon thousands of data points that we can't possibly do ourselves on our own. But there's a difference between knowing and understanding, right? And that's where human lived experience comes in. So yeah, I think it's a nice wordplay, but maybe less dichotomy, more complementary.
Yeah. Have you seen that I'm sure you've seen this viral clip, I forget even who says it, where he's like, artificial intelligence is neither artificial nor is it intelligent. Have you seen that sort of meme clip?
It doesn't ring a bell, but it's very, yeah, that sounds about right.
Do you agree with that idea that it's AI is neither artificial nor is it intelligent?
Yeah, I do. I think it can be really unintelligent sometimes. I mean, if you use ChatGPT, then you'll know how much it makes stuff up. And you just, without that lived experience, without that understanding of human emotion and contextualizing things, then I don't think it can ever be some kind of supreme intelligence. But at the same time, it's not completely artificial. It's taken real world examples. It's taken real data points. So it's just like a harvester of knowledge, really.
Yeah. Hadeer, I want to ask you like a really basic question as an artist, which is how, when people are like, there's a really big conversation around ethics, artistic, the sort of ethical considerations for artists and creatives who are using AI, and this idea that like we can't be using it because it is fundamentally different than any other tool that we've had in the past. Like a typewriter is different, a calculator is different. But here's a question for you. For somebody who's maybe been using Illustrator and Photoshop for years, when there's like interesting brushes that are introduced as tools in Photoshop that use algorithms to figure out how brush strokes should work and how sort of filters and effects should be used, is that type of technology fundamentally different than using AI to generate art?
I think it's like for me, when I think about it, it's when we are talking about photography, like analog photography versus like digital photography. And now we have AI generative images that they can produce, also photographic images that is super realistic. But at the same time, I can't put them all in the same basket. I can't compare. They have interesting fundamentals when it comes to how they can create an image, or like, it's like light, shadow, whatever. Like we can critique that. But when it comes to like what you're trying to say with the medium, it's there's something there that you're trying to communicate that maybe with using different medium will say something completely different. So by using AI, not always, this will not achieve the same thing that maybe you're doing analog. And same thing with the brushes, as you were saying. It's like if I'm using like ink based on paper, it's so different than Illustrator, so different. That's why they would like, also the people that they paint, they're like differentiating themselves from digital illustrators from this. Like there are a lot of division, and I don't like that. It's like as an artist, I'm not. It exists, but who cares? It's like, again, it's like another tool that is there to support you and support what you're trying to say. As if you don't have something to say, okay, so maybe you need to like drop all these tools and figure out what you're trying to say first, or just play and you know and critique later. It's like when you figure out what you're trying to say and then use the tool. I don't know if this answered your question, but it's a lot of these discussions that happens even in academia, and it's like in the classroom, at least between faculty and students, of like how they can use these tools, and what is the contribution of the tool versus like the creativity and the originality of the artist, and who owns what. And I would suggest it's like you're working with like another human. It's like an artisan or another designer that you're collaborating with. You have to credit them. You have to like know where you're contributing to the project and assessing intentionally how they can come in and have an input, and what's coming out is something completely different than what you expected because you put different inputs in the process.
Are you somebody, Hadeer, are you somebody who's like particularly concerned about this ethical implications of using AI at this scale? I mean, if somebody saw the exhibition, I think you walk away with it with concern. You're like, whoa, wait a second, hold on for a second. There's a lot of things I need to be worried about. Are you somebody who's like particularly worried about the onset of artificial intelligence and what it's doing to our society?
I remember reading The Economist, they were talking about how data became more valuable than oil these days, and how it's already reshaping the way that we have, it's like we exist, and now wars are existing because of also um, um, data. I was looking at like how Elon Musk was just launched like Grok 4, which is something like ChatGPT in this month, and he was talking about how it's way better than PhD level people. It's like, and the information that's getting out, and the fact that you are seeing like the US, like Biden was also ruling, like, it's like putting out rules to limit, like, it's like selling like AI chips to like certain countries recently, it's like to eliminate, like, it's like creating your own database and your own, like, it's like AI systems that is associated to your culture, your religion, your background, whatever that like suits the different communities. It's concerning that it's like when you have gatekeepers and when you have people that they are willing to put you in positions that you have to find like allies like China and other places to, like, it's like create your own deals, and it is political. We can't run away from it. And even if we are just users and we're consumers, we have to think about these things, and we have to be aware um, of the restrictions and what it brings. And they tell you, it's like, if the technology is free, that means you're the product. So it's all of these type of things that it makes us definitely concerned, and make me think about what kind of input that I'm and how I'm consuming these technologies. But at the same time, I can't run away from it. The only thing is that I can do is to be an active learner and be aware of the existence of it, and also do my own research. And hopefully, maybe we can create also our own systems or hack it. So it's like when you see in the exhibition, even if a lot of these artists they didn't create things from scratch, when it talks to, like, it's like when it comes to the systems that they were using, at least they were at least raising awareness of how can we use it, or why are we using it, how it's politically played, or how we're being silenced in some topics, or different communities are being silenced. So it's at least the conversation is going, and I'm glad that a lot of the areas in the global south, they are taking initiative and putting money, and to at least highlight it, because it's a huge issue to know that you are being grabbed by the neck, and you don't have you're cornered. We're cornered big time to follow, and not have any other way to, like, say, express ourselves, or have control over our data.
Katy, are you particularly worried as somebody who was so involved in this exhibition too? Did you come out more pessimistic than you went in?
No, I actually came out more optimistic, weirdly enough. I think just because having a bit more knowledge on it, going into it, I didn't know as much about it. And I just kind of started to see the opportunities. I don't want to sound cheesy, but there's that saying, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? I just think for every negative that there is for AI, there's also an opportunity. And I think it's no different to anything that's sort of come before it. And I also see AI as a great equalizer. It allows, as long as you have access to the AI platform, which, in itself, it can be difficult. But if you do, then you have access to all that knowledge, and you can learn in the same way as anyone else. Whereas before, only certain people could write something in English. Now anyone can do it, because it's got such great capabilities of translation, and vice versa. I can put something in there and get Arabic straight back, and I think that really opens up the possibilities for communication, for accessibility, and for people to upskill a lot easier. And yeah, so to answer your question in a nutshell, it, weirdly made me more optimistic about it.
One of the things that's sort of like at the core of the ethical dilemma is that there isn't full transparency on the algorithm, right? On what's actually happening behind the scenes. So like if you actually put in you said, hey, I need you to write this letter for me. It's writing in somebody else's voice, and we don't know whose voice that is, right? So their inherent biases, it's obviously not a single person, but the way that these models are trained informs what it produces. And if what it produces starts to replace what we would actually end up producing, it sort of replaces our voice. I'm curious how your thoughts and your feelings about that sort of evolved as you did this research as well.
I think it evolves all the time.
Am I overly worried about it, basically?
I mean, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's all sorts of things that could go wrong with it. If you think too much about it, it can be quite terrifying. But I genuinely think the opposite is also true. And I think, especially with large language models, they sort of design to mirror us. So the more you use it, the more it starts to reflect yourself, which in itself, I think, could be quite dangerous, in the same way that algorithms on social media sort of feed you similar content and then you end up in an echo chamber of opinion. I think the same can be true. I just read an article this morning about something called AI-induced psychosis or AI-exacerbated psychosis, even though it's not an official diagnosis, but apparently mental health professionals are more concerned about the idea of people who may be a bit paranoid or have delusional thoughts. And if they're feeding that into the AI, that's being mirrored back at them and it's exacerbating these delusions. I think that's an extreme and rare example, but I think to a certain extent, I do, if I had one major concern about it, it might be the spread of misinformation and disinformation and the polarization of people in general in society, because we're sort of feeding ourselves our own opinions. And also AI feeds itself on the information you put into it, right? And, it hallucinates all the time. So
yeah. My dad is so funny. My dad, when he when he first discovered ChatGPT, he started using it a lot, and he was like, at the beginning, he was like, he was so happy. He was like, I told it about a new idea I have, and it said it was wonderful.
yeah,
It said it was an amazing idea.
I always
And
say
then
that
after, like,
ChatGPT is such a great cheerleader. If you want someone to motivate you for your terrible idea, then you got to go to ChatGPT. Other ones are not so bad, but ChatGPT definitely is like the one that does that. But I've tried quite a few, and the others can be a little bit more measured in what they give you back.
yeah. Hadeer, I'm curious about how you feel about sort of the ethical considerations, especially as eventually I'm sure there are going to be more large language models that come out, born out of the global south. I know Qatar is pouring tons of money into this, obviously in the UAE and Saudi and other places. I'm sure every single country in the region is going to start trying to develop their own. Are you worried about or maybe I should say, what parts of it are you most worried about?
I think one of the things that I see it even in my classes is and even with just the interaction, not just the ChatGPT, but I think ChatGPT, just because we use it on a daily basis, is how lazy we become and how dependent we are when it comes to the information that it gives us. So it's like, if this is the paragraph that you wanted to be restructured or you wanted to search for something or whatever, you take that information, especially if you are someone that is still new and young and doesn't know how to do proper research. You can just take that information as that's the default of things, and this is the best way to represent what I want to say because it's actually better than how I would sound. And by doing that, by time, it will make people less literate when it comes to grammar. Other things that it's just reading, the skills of writing, all of the other things that we were forced when we were kids to do. I know the faculty are forcing students to use paper and pen, and get away from the computer till this day just because of that. But at the same time, I feel the issue is the receiver, the human that is interacting with these things in a way that um, take information, and then what are you gonna do with it? What is your style? Did you figure your own style first, and then you're trying to maybe what ChatGPT got you, and then you turn it into your own? So it's more like a conversation and a collaboration instead of just you receive and that's it. A lot of AI disasters happened. It's like for the last couple of years was because of, I don't know, laziness or not, but I remember one of the publishers, they were like started to like even putting up like articles that it was made out of AI and generated by AI, and they had to delete it after because people were like, "What the hell is this? So what this means with journalism?" It's like if you're gonna start like producing content with AI and as like AI images, so there are a lot of things that is a little bit freaky, and at the same time it goes back to us as um, Arabic, for example, is very complicated and interesting as a language. And now when I read what is written on social media with it or whatever, I just laugh because it sounds so simple and not how Arabic should sound. It's like it sounds translated. It sounds like it was written in a different language and then it was translated to us, and now I'm reading something that is just plain and boring. And that's a problem because if you have a new generation that this is what they're exposed to, so for them would be that's Arabic, and it turns us into like maybe a little bit, I don't know, dumber, or I don't know what's the word for it, but it's definitely affects the way that we, yeah, connect with the language.
I'm curious, Hadeer, for the piece that you contributed to the exhibition, how we see the computer like versus how the computer sees us. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece?
So I collaborated with Handy Sada, which is also digital artist, and she's the one who's heavier dealing with the AI systems. But it was interesting that me and her, when we started the conversation, we knew that we didn't want just to celebrate AI. We knew that we wanted to somehow see like what exists overall and how it was what exists in the market, what it exists as like, it's like um, things that is considerably cool for a lot of people and trending to use. But at the same time, we were interested to see how there were like a lot of biases and a lot of like there are a lot of misguidance, and because of how immature the algorithms still are. So in some cases, it's like we started scanning, um, like it's like people walking on the street, and the algorithm will like identify a person, for example. But once you have someone that's wearing a thobe, which is the white um, dress, like it's like outfit for the guys in Qatar, they will start reducing that. I will not see them. So there are a lot of things that we started to like experiment with to see it's like how tool is seeing us, or how the um, speaking about the knowledge that it has, maybe it doesn't have that much knowledge yet. And also we wanted to see how people are freaking out on the other side. Like, it's like looking at social media and seeing how a lot of content's being generated daily, tons and tons of just people reacting in a good or negative way of how it's like the world is gonna be doomed, as you said, or it's or they're expressing themselves with it. So I think we were just curious to see also how we know about AI as the input and then the output, and we don't know what the hell is happening in it. we don't know. It's like, what is this? Like, what is the process? What is happening in there that makes the input turns into that output? And we started challenging that. It's like either changing a little bit in the input or changing whatever was happening in the middle in the code, just to kind of see it's like, okay, how can we localize a little bit these systems that already exist to fit our needs? And we did like like a video installation that had like 48 screens, that they were all like snippets of the research and all the whatever we gathered, but also the things that we were testing with the algorithms and producing it in like video works. So at least people would get to see that process throughout the exhibition.
I feel like when I saw that piece, I couldn't help but think of this idea of like the surveillance state, right? And how these systems are like helping and could be contributing to these like broader questions of the ability of the sort of the quote unquote the machine to be able to identify us and sort of track us uh, and to surveil. Katy, was that this sort of a thread that you guys try to explore as part of the curatorial team?
Well, I mean, I worked predominantly on the publication, so we talked about surveillance, particularly in terms of drones. There was a really great piece in the publication. It was a bit of speculative fiction that was like positively dystopian, something that like George Orwell could have written. Like the kind of the journalism being done by drones and being completely controlled by one person. It could easily go down that route. I think the idea of dystopian fiction when it comes to AI at the moment is really interesting, because I think a lot of the fears we have around AI are kind of based in fiction that we've read growing up and we've known about, like George Orwell in 1984 and Brave New World. And I think that's kind of what's stuck in our head about these things. And I guess we pulled on that a little bit. There are legitimate concerns, so we looked into that in certain aspects of the publication. Yeah.
Because like for me, a lot of the exhibition, and we're going to talk about the broader exhibition in other episodes. I felt like looked at how that how it sort of tied into, and even in the book, how it affects security, how it affects our own privacy. And even just today, we're recording this July 31st. I saw this article today. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said, you saw this, right? He was like, well, at some point, all of your chat GPTs are probably going to be leaked.
Like used in court against you. I read that.
Used in court against you. And I'm like, oh my God, disaster. How can
I
can I go
know.
back and delete everything?
And I don't think that matters what platform you use, probably. I'm sure it can all, even if you delete it, apparently, like it doesn't make
Of
a
course.
difference. Yeah.
It's never deleted.
Well, it's the same as your search history, isn't it? Like that can be used against you. Your Twitter feed, your X feed, your any digital footprint. So I guess it's similar. And that's been a concern ever since like the beginning of the internet, isn't it? Like cybersecurity, like privacy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I honestly think with the things like that are genuinely going to harm us, I would like to think that there will be new policies coming in globally. Whether or not they'll be robust enough to really help everyone, I don't know. But I do think like we're in sort of there's like a frenzy phase right now with AI. Everyone's like, ooh, look what it can do. And we're all testing it and and trying it out, and it's almost overboard. But I think it will die down a little bit. Like, obviously I'm being very speculative here, but I do hope that, and we kind of explored this as well, like policy and regulation, it needs to come from everywhere, and everyone needs to have their say on what will be done in terms of across the world, like from the global south to the west. Like, we need everyone to sort of pitch in to see how these things can affect like different countries, different nations, different, people of different backgrounds and demographics.
I have a question for you. Since we're talking about Katie, since we're talking about the Sam Altman thing, there's a piece in the glossary, I think, that you wrote about the Panama Papers and about things getting like leaked. Is your hunch that things are much worse or much better sort of behind the scenes? Like what OpenAI knows about us, what Google knows about us, the power of the sort of implications and what of AI in general. Do you suspect that things are going to be different? What we know now as a public is different than what is actually happening. Using social media as a perfect example. So like in the early or in the late 2000s, all the social media companies were very well aware of what social media was doing to our brains and what it was doing to our society and what it was doing to our ability to connect with people. They fully understood this, but like tobacco companies, they were like selling it to us as much as possible. Do you have a sense that this is what might happen?
I feel, yeah, so the creators of AI themselves have said these things, right? Like, this could be really terrifying. So yeah, I think there's all sorts we don't know. There always will be all sorts that we don't know. I think, yeah, with the leaked papers, I think that just proves there's always going to be stuff that we don't know, and it's hard to sort of decipher that. Maybe that's where AI comes in. I mean, like the open source technology and stuff we also talked about in the glossary, like opening that up to other people and allowing people to create their own systems. I mean, like cryptocurrency is a really good example of that. It's, deregulation and, putting it back into the hands of the people, like pure democracy. I think there are a lot of opportunities in this way. Again, like Hadeer was saying, it's like having your own little team sometimes, like people who before might not have been able to get their business off the ground, get their startup off the ground because they didn't have enough funds, can do the job of about 10 people with AI and get that startup off the ground and then start making income for their family when before maybe that would have been difficult. I feel like I might be coming across as like a real blinded idealist here, but I do genuinely believe these things. I think that there's a lot of opportunity, but I would like to clarify that I do see the downsides of it as well.
I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but would you mind describing some of those leaked paper cases? Do you remember these off the top of your head?
Oh no, they were all financial things, and my brain tends to shut off when it comes to finances.
Okay.
I know it's all like offshore finances for everyone. So, but obviously with WikiLeaks, there've been so many leaks and things in the past of just showing how, people behind the scenes are working together on things that we didn't know. I do think sometimes that makes it look like the world is way more orchestrated than it is, because I just think things might happen between a few people, and by chance, and I don't like. I'm sort of talking about conspiracy theories a little bit here, and I feel like sometimes the leaks can feed into that narrative. I just don't think that the world is as organized as we think it is. So while there's definitely a lot that we don't know, because if you think about everything you don't know about the people closest to you, you can say that on a global scale. but I don't necessarily think everybody's working together against us, if that makes sense. I don't give them enough credit for that.
Yeah. Hadeer, I have a question for you. Do you feel like among your students, not only are there skills changing, but do you feel like their ability to sort of exist is changing? Like the way social media changed the way sort of friendships, are, the way iPhones changed the way people sort of interact. I was listening to somebody a couple of days ago, and they were saying AirPods have fundamentally changed how people
Talk to
behave in
themselves on
public
the street.
spaces.
Yeah.
Not only talk to themselves on the street, but like people wear them when they're not even listening to music as a sign to say like, don't talk to me, right? So I really wonder, since you work with so many students, how you think even the way that their sort of brain operates has changed.
Yeah, that's something that I think every year I get older and the students are still in the same age category. So it's interesting to witness it because I feel the gap is getting bigger and bigger. But at the same time, what's cool about it is getting updates from them all the time. Like I like when the students bring to the conversation new tools, new trends. I would try to challenge myself in a way to go in territories that I am not used to as an artist. And the only thing that I know is I know that I'm mentoring them and I have to kind of guide them in the process, but at the same time I'm learning with them. So we turn it into more like a lab that it's like let's bring all these tools. And it's not even if it's not tools, even behaviors, as you were saying, or how how they're interacting with the world and how they see the world. So if you give them a photography project or you give them um, any other, you'd see how they are like solving a problem through their eyes. It's like they are seeing the world completely different than how I would solve this problem that I'm giving them. And I think one of the things that I am noticing that just we are so not patient like before. It just I'm talking about their generation, and I think my generation maybe is affected by it. But definitely, we need more shortcuts. We don't have the stamina to like sit and learn, and we just want like almost like short reels to like teach us something. And the formats are changing. The way that we even teach students, we need to be um, I changed the language at least. It's like in the way that I would try to teach students. And I'm not saying that I'm simplifying it, but I'm acknowledging that my audience are just changing and I have to adapt a little bit with it. So it's like either you divide the project into like smaller exercises or things that can challenge them, but it's fun, but at the same time make them talk more, express themselves more, and I need to like I don't know. This is how I learn is just by people when they're talking to me. It's like because I would assume things and I would give it to them and they think that it would work, but you have to test it. So I think the it's not just the newer generation. I see it with even my parents. It's like my parents were against social media 20 years ago, and seeing how like my parents would like post things and super updated with like sitting there watching reels and they would come and tell me it's like this happened today because a reel that they saw and I'm like this is false information but they are going with it just because they think it's real. It's a video that it looks real to them but it was AI generated.
This is one of my biggest concerns, I think, and especially like boomers, and that generation. They're 4 times more likely to spread false news than younger generations, and it kind of makes sense because they didn't grow up with that technology in the same way that we did, and obviously the younger digital natives did. But yeah, the misinformation and the spreading and the polarization of society through these AI generated false narratives is very concerning. I can only see getting. I think the only answer to that is just media literacy and education. I can't see it getting any better, but I can see people getting more savvy to it. So I think that's all we can do, really.
And it's not only like misinformation, like some news story. What's petrifying is the idea that there's targeted phishing campaigns, right? So somebody who, my mom getting a call from somebody who sounds exactly like me.
No, my mum fell for one of those. She got a text message from me. She's in the UK, but she got text messages from like 3 different numbers in Dubai, where I'm based, and sent money. But thankfully, her bank was savvy enough to block the amount. And then she called me and was like, "Oh, you didn't lose your phone?" It's like, "No, I didn't lose my phone. Like, I'm not going to message you and ask you to send me money. That's just not going to happen."
Oh my God.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think the and how good they're getting. I've fallen for one myself. I mean, it was Christmas Eve, and it was a sort of parcel delivery message. And it was like, "Oh, we just tried to deliver your parcel. You just need to pay this fee so we can deliver it again." And Christmas Eve, I had my family around. Everyone was sort of distracting me. I have 2 young kids. I was waiting for presents to come for Christmas Day, and I just paid this fee. And next thing I know, 17,000 dirhams comes out of my account, and I'm like, want to vomit. Like, it was awful. And I tried to get it back. I had tried to go through, the cyber police, the bank, and I couldn't. So, um, and while I would never fall for that myself again, they're getting better and better every day, and it's quite scary.
And those ones, those phishing is not even the AI ones. The AI ones are the ones where you get a FaceTime, and the FaceTime is your son speaking to you, like their face speaking to you.
Definitely. I need to warn my mum about those. You've reminded me.
Yeah, but that's why you have to create code and really make people around you understand what these tools are capable of. Like, my parents is like will never understand that. You have to somehow sit with them and create your own, it's like SOS kind of situation that it's like, that something is wrong is going, and it just like they would understand, because a lot of the times it's problematic when it comes to not just about the image. It's just also, it's like the camera will track where your eye is looking, and they can scan, like, it's like, what are you interested in, or like, it's like knowing like your passcodes of things. And it's more accessible now to get into your information than ever. And like, one of the scariest things that I thought when back then was the Face IDs. I remember people were freaking out. They didn't want to do Face IDs for the, it's like scanning your face with the iPhone, because they're like, Apple will take all our faces and do stuff with it. And everyone now is using it. And still, like, it's like we surrendered almost. So I don't know, like, it feels like at a certain point, you just need to be overprotected. You can't just like say that because everyone is using it, I would do it. Like, you need to be aware of the risk that you're taking with these things.
Yeah, it's like with the Studio Ghibli thing that happened with ChatGPT when the image generation came out, and then everyone started putting their own images in, and then they did that Barbie doll thing as well. And I just kept reading about all these things, how AI could use your face, and I just refused to put until this day, I've refused to put my face into ChatGPT, just out of pure caution. I don't think we can be more careful with things like that.
But even putting your stuff online, like your your images, everything that you put, like, your life is all on Instagram. Like, ChatGPT, or at least whoever wants to take your data, will not wait for you to upload your like your image in ChatGPT. Like I think it's so easy now to access.
No, yeah. It's true, especially with social media. Like there's no going back for us now. But then I had photos of my kids on my Instagram. I've like archived all those, hidden all those now, anything that's recognizable to them, because yeah, I mean that it's not their decision, is it? It has to be their decision if they put their face on the internet. It's not mine. So I think, yeah, there's a lot that can be said around this.
You know, it's funny because like if we think of this as such a potent hazard, like we're talking about it as if it's like a poison or a weapon, right? It's like something that we need to like use with caution and be wary around the potency of the danger. The hazard is overwhelming. Like we're talking about it as if it's this very dangerous substance. Yet in the region, we are rushing to catch up with these companies. Right? We're like saying like, okay, we need an Arabic version of this. We need to be feeding it all of our ancestral knowledge. We need to make sure that it's as powerful as the sort of Western versions of it. I wonder if that's the ethical conclusion. Like, should we be backing away from this and saying, no, actually, less face unlock, less.
I don't know, because I think then
yeah.
like the regions and that just like allows discrimination to breed, and like a lack of representation. I think it is important that the other regions make their own, unless they get like drowned out. But I think, and they have an opportunity to do it differently, right? We're, again, like so much of this stuff that apart from obviously phishing scams and stuff, but so much of the stuff that we worry about in terms of surveillance, it really does come back to literature that we grew up on. And so we have this idea of it, but that's all from a Western lens. So I think anything that people can do elsewhere in the world and just bring their differences, bring their cultures, bring their different perspective to it, I think will open up the conversation a lot.
Yeah. Hadeer, were you going to say something?
No, I'm agreeing. I think it took us so long for the Arabic to catch up, to be, it's like have its own modern identity when it comes to like calligraphy or like, it's like visual language. And a lot of it was mimicking what the West, or like, it's like what was happening in graphic design or whatever, you can just name it. But it just, and now people are realizing that they have to catch up, and it's like there are a lot of interesting movements that's happening to really capture the essence of Arabic and its beautiful forms and modernize it. And now there are a lot of more demand to use it and to create more research on it. So, but it took us so long to like, it's like catch up, and I feel we can't just wait until like, it's like it hit us, it's like a moment that it's like now our entire street is filled with English and English font, and we have very sad Arabic next to it, it's like, and until we realize that. So it's kind of similar to these technologies. I think we have very complicated histories and traumas, and we're resisting in so many different ways that we're trying to communicate that through social media, through whatever platforms that we're up, even if we're not inventing such things. But the fact that at least they're starting, I think it's a good way of positioning ourselves there. And I would love to like just drop Instagram or drop like other platforms that it's Western platforms, but I'm forced because there is nothing else. There is no alternative to use. And if there is something alternative, that would be my kind of my rebelliousness, or like, it's like me wanting to like, it's like dropping all of that and go for that kind of direction. So yeah, I agree.
The local version. Yeah.
And the documentation as well, like you were saying, is such a huge part of it. This region, it's lacked a lot of documentation and record for so long. I mean, my father-in-law's from Saudi. He doesn't even know his birthday because he doesn't have a birth certificate. It's so common, right? That having all that knowledge stored where it can never get lost is going to be so powerful as well.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask both of you is if there's something that you like, if somebody comes over to the exhibition or came to the exhibition to check it out, is there one thing that you wanted them to walk away with that you're like, wait, did you see this one? Did you see this one? Or if in the book, in the glossary, you're like, no, you have to read this one. What is the one piece that you think you have to check this out because it sort of changed the way I think about AI and the implications of AI?
I want to say like the whole book. The whole thing. I feel like you can't do it without the whole thing because like that's how it changed my mind, because it was like just having more knowledge of the whole puzzle. Like having one piece of the puzzle, I think, can give you sort of a skewed idea of what AI is. Whereas if you have more knowledge about the whole rounded experience from the exhibition and I think that's why it all comes together so well. Sorry, that might be a really boring answer, but
No. It's not boring, but I have to say I'm amazed that you came out more optimistic than you went in with, because for
I
me,
know.
I'm like, and the more I read the book and having seen it and just like living, being in Lebanon, and just the degree to which I think is going to kind of ruin the world
I think
seems
that,
so self-evident.
yeah, I'm just thinking, like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking I think because a lot of the downsides were nothing new, but a lot of the upsides were new, right? Like things around bias and privacy and security and accountability. These are all things that we've worried about in so many different forms with whatever has come along. But like the actual things, the opportunities that AI brings are genuinely quite new for us. Um, so I think that's why. I couldn't tell you otherwise.
Okay. Hadid, what about you? Was there a piece that sort of you feel like was a must see, or a essay that you felt like was a must read?
Um, there were a couple of projects. Yeah, was one of it. It was the vest, I think. I think that was the one with the
The
surveillance,
vest,
and yeah,
super
it
powerful.
was super powerful. And also the one, I think, Studio Flux, they did. I think the one with the Arabic, the introduction to like writing Arabic, and it's just like how it makes it easier. It was like on the iPad. It was interesting as an experiment, or like for people to introduce them to like a different way to interact with the language. And I would love to see more and more experiments with the language, just because of how much is out there for English, and just I would love to see other languages being tested and celebrated also in different ways. So these are one of the two. And when you were saying about like the being optimistic or pessimistic or coming out of the exhibition, I think kind of similar to what Katie was saying, that it's already where we thought that when Meta would do the metaverse and people would be living in like in space, and like like own lands and whatever, it's just like they would have a very lovely place to like to escape reality. And the more and more I got into it and I got excited to invest in it and all of that, I figured out that we're bringing all our social problems and all our every single thing that exists, and like social codes and all, we're bringing it to like the metaverse. And I'm like, okay, so what's new? It's just like I have a headset on. That's it. It's like that. There's nothing really changing here. So AI is kind of similar, that in a way that if people think that it will change the world, then it's like it will definitely will shift it, but we're still the same. We're still gonna eat the same food. Like, it's like what this the same. So I think this is where I'm like, in my head is like, okay, it will eliminate some challenges, but it will bring more. So it's just like we have to cope with just to change.
It also kind of, in a way, makes us more human almost, you know? It really puts a premium on what's handmade and made by humans. And I think that's kind of nice as well.
Yeah.
To end on
It
yet
brings
another optimistic note.
it brings into focus like the best parts and the worst parts of humanity. You're like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, very
Okay.
true.
I really appreciate this. Thanks to both of you guys for the conversation. I really enjoyed talking about it. Katy, I didn't mean to try to make you sound overly optimistic, but I really, Anjad, I really appreciate you guys talking about this.
Yeah.
So
It's like I'm
thanks so
weirdly
much.
optimistic. I'm aware. Thank you so much, Mikey.